trade tensions. But we stay now with China, which has hit back at the United States over its fentanyl crisis, calling on Washington to stop smearing and shifting blame. This comes just a day after both countries agreed to a temporary reduction in tariffs under the new agreement. The US will lower its tariffs on Chinese goods to 30%, while China will cut its own to 10%. But Beijing is furious that the US is still imposing an extra 20% tariff linked to Trump's complaints over Chinese chemical exports used to make the drug fentanyl. Chinese firms produce and export the precursor chemicals required to manufacture fentanyl, which ends up crossing into the US, often via Mexican cartels. The US has been grappling with a deadly opioid epidemic, with fentanyl being a major driver of overdose deaths. Washington has long maintained that Beijing isn't doing enough to curb chemical exports, an allegation China firmly denies. Let's have a listen in to Lin Jian, the Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson.
美方无视中方的善意，对中国无理加征芬太尼关税，这严重冲击中美在禁毒领域的对话与合作，也严重损害中方利益。美方如果真心想同中方合作，就应该停止对华抹黑推责，在以平等、尊重、互惠的方式同中方对话。
Let's now take our focus to Europe, and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy has said that he hopes for a ceasefire with Russia starting on Monday, and that he will be waiting for Putin in Turkey personally, referring to the Russian president's offer for direct peace talks in Istanbul. This comes after Zelenskyy said on Sunday that Ukraine's proposal of a ceasefire starting on Monday remained on the table, and that Kyiv was still waiting for a response from Russia. This came after he insisted there must be a full temporary ceasefire in place before the negotiations proposed by Putin could start. Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov has stated that the Russian side is preparing for the talks. However, that is all they can say at this point and do not intend to comment further. Ukraine has responded to this and said that Putin skipping the talks would be the final signal that Moscow does not have any intentions of ending the war. United States President Donald Trump had posted on Sunday on his Truth Social platform that Putin doesn't want to have a ceasefire agreement with Ukraine, but rather that he wants to meet on Thursday in Turkey to negotiate a possible end to the quote-unquote bloodbath, and that Ukraine should agree to this immediately. Following this, Trump said on Monday that he was thinking about flying over for direct Zelensky-Putin talks in Turkey. Zelenskyy has backed the idea of Trump attending. Meanwhile, the US Secretary of State Marco Rubio held a call with his European counterparts, including the foreign ministers of Britain and France, as well as the EU's foreign policy chief, to discuss a way forward for a ceasefire in Ukraine. Ukraine's Foreign Minister Andriy Sybiha and his German and Polish counterparts also took part in this call, according to a State Department readout. Moreover, Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan held a phone conversation with his Ukrainian counterpart on Monday and reiterated Turkey's commitment to facilitating peace negotiations between Russia and Ukraine.